okay, philosophically we can accept there is Atma. But we find even in the Bharat Maharaj case, finally, Bharat Maharaj, he was such a great devotee, yet he actually fell down because of attachment to the deer. So similarly, how should a devotee get this proper realization? Not just philosophical, as I think you were also saying that realization is more difficult than just philosophical understanding. So how can the devotee get this understanding that I am Atma and I am part of Krishna and I have to serve him?
Yeah. So that is why we do sadhana, bhakti. Now we can try it through jnana yoga or Astanga yoga. It also works, but it's a more difficult process. So we get the same result through bhakti yoga, plus we get extra results. So through bhakti yoga, you can also understand you're not the body, but you're the soul. And but you get a little more realization because we also realize our relationship with the Supreme Lord. So we get extra, and it's easier process and quicker process.
The Anartha Nivritti, Maharaj, that is also, like you were saying, that there is transfer of mentality also. So now, although one may say that yes, or now I have to realize my relationship with Krishna, but then we have so many anarthas which are also not so easily going. So what should a devotee do when he finds that they are in Anartha Nivritti and they want to go to Nishtha? What should they do?
Well, the technical process is to concentrate on the sadhana or the process of bhakti, which has its external aspects of doing things with our body and senses. It also has this internal aspect, of course, the mental aspect. And then beyond that, we have the we can say the soul's aspect, or the jiva's aspect as well, which means that our basic faith and our attraction to Krishna is in the soul. And that has to be correlated with our activities and our bhakti, etc. That combination will clear out the anarthas. So, as we know, all of these anarthas, etc., are not a natural state, but they're a habitual state. Because birth after birth after, we keep accumulating more and more material impressions, and it's reinforced after many, many births. So in that sense, difficult to get rid of, but also not really natural, because it creates problems for us. So the natural position of the soul is not to have problems. And therefore, in the body also should not be problemless. So we see in animals don't have such complicated problems as human beings. They don't have mental problems, generally, I'm thinking. We have schizophrenic dogs? I don't think so. Generally not. We don't get such problems in the animals as we get in human beings. The human being's brain gets all complex because the subtle body is much more complex, and it holds the impressions, and they keep surfacing in this lifetime, and then based on that we gather new impressions, and we distort those things, and we get a lot of problems. But not natural. So of course in the Varnashram system, this is accommodated by fitting within the Varnas and then leading a stable life within the Varnas. So this to a large degree gets rid of a lot of the negative impressions that are stored up birth after birth. Of course, still, it's all, let's say, based upon material enjoyment, so the ahankara is still there even in sattva gun. But we can say a lot of the negativity is gone, so you can live a comfortable life at least within the gunas, tamagun, rajagun, sattvagun. So the process of bhakti, of course, does all of this adjustment as well, but then it also, let's say, replaces everything. Replaces all the negative impressions that are stored up, and then finally also gets rid of the false ego. How do we do that? We replace that with the more positive impressions. So in material life, of course, positive impressions would be material enjoyment, things like this, to get rid of your lower things like that, or the sattvic enjoyment over tamasic enjoyment like that. No? So we go a step further, and we replace even the sattvic enjoyment, everything, with spiritual activities, spiritual enjoyment, spiritual pleasure, etc. And this will automatically destroy all of these, replace all of the lower elements. In other words, we get a higher taste, we give up the lower taste. Huh? So, if you can have a taste, then the process becomes easier. The taste increases for spiritual things, and then automatically the taste for material things decreases. And the impressions from karmas, etc., and the ahankara begin to get weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And of course, we don't get rid of ahankara. We change the ahankara from myself and me and mine to I am Krishna's. So it's not self-centered anymore, but it's still an I. But the center becomes Krishna.
So in the meanwhile, Maharaj, like when we are trying to do the bodily, mental and spiritual activity oriented towards Krishna consciousness, now how does one increase one's taste? Because the whole thing is, as you said, if the taste is arising, then the process is easier. Whereas if one has taste in material life, which is so strong because of the previous karmas and impressions, so what should one do to increase one's taste?
The taste is automatically there because we have bhakti itself, and the processes of bhakti itself are absolute. So they're the Sarup Shakti of Krishna. So they automatically have taste in them. The only problem is that we're covered over so much that we can't access the taste. So but by exposure, then it becomes more revealed. But we can say to make that process more effective, there should also be an effective individual attitude. So in other words, we have to have the devotion also. It's not just that the absolute, we chant, and that's what works, but it's a slow process. So we have faith, and we do have devotion. That combination makes the name more powerful. You can say that this power becomes revealed easier to us. So that is a part not of the Atma of the mind, but of the Atma itself. So that's why the process of bhakti is not simply an external process of engaging the senses. That's there, but beneath that is the Krishnaanusilanam, which is cultivating, it's the Atma's cultivation of a relationship with Krishna, of love. It starts with faith, and then we start developing that bhakti in the Atma. So that intensifies or makes the whole process stronger. And that's how we'll develop taste. So if it's all external, then we get very slow progress. If we internalize it, then we get quicker progress.
What should a devotee do to internalize like this, the attitude of devotion and love that I want to make a relationship with Krishna? What should one do for it?
Well, of course, we get sambandha, we get knowledge of things, of just how to practice. We get knowledge of pure bhakti over mixed bhakti. We get an understanding of Krishna and his attractive features. We get association of devotees. And, of course, then we have to apply the process properly and understand it's not just an external system. It's internal as well. The Atma, and then the mind, and then the physical activities. It's a combination of three things.
So now one has to also live in this world. So, like say, especially if one is young and one is marrying, then one has to do a lot to maintain the body. So, that amount of, and if we have to do something good in this world, we must have interest in it. Otherwise, we can't do it properly. Like in a company or anywhere we work, if we have to perform properly, we must have some interest. Otherwise, we just can't perform it competitively well. So then, now that is one side which one has to do compulsorily. On this side, and that is strong because of the previous life's impressions. And this devotion or desire to make a relationship with Krishna is weak. So if we compare this desire with the other desire, this is so weak.
The best is to combine them, and that is, yes, you have material ambitions or whatever, but one should also understand that the way in which to accommodate those is by having the proper attitude. And that is ultimately that Krishna's in control of everything. So therefore, we can go about our work, etc. Yeah, we can have ambitions in the material world, but with the understanding that ultimately we're working under the guidance of Krishna and under his arrangement, and also the goal is Krishna. So even that becomes the goal of our work or whatever somehow. It's indirect, of course, but nevertheless. By doing that, then the work becomes easier. We don't have to struggle so much anymore because we correlated that work with our Krishna consciousness, so therefore it becomes harmonious, and therefore Krishna agrees to make everything harmonious for you. So in one sense, the karmic impediments that are caused by our individual struggle to achieve things disappear because we get the help of Krishna. But that's provided that we're cooperating with his plan. And we're trying to do it independently, and for material, gross, selfish reasons, then of course we have to struggle.
So that means there has to be a healthy detachment also along with exhibiting.
Oh yeah. Has to be. Even in the material world, there has to be healthy detachment. So it's taught to some degree throughout the Varnashram system, and even the Kshatriya has to be a little detached. He cannot be overly indulging in, hunting and drinking and all these things. Even so it's permitted, he has to be a little detached from all of that, and he has higher responsibilities to do. And then the Brahmin, of course, is more detached. And even though most of them are grihastas, then their understanding is ultimately we have to give this up and take sannyas and whatever like that. So there has to be a little detachment behind everything, understanding there is a higher purpose in it.
This oneness of purpose, that I am doing everything for making my relationship with Krishna, how does this become strong, Maharaj? Like, we have to do so many activities, and you said we can combine them. So
I think it's a daily cultivation. It's part of the whole process of bhakti. That we're trying to please Krishna. So therefore, throughout the day, basically our activities of bhakti are those activities, Mangalarti. So we have to remember the Lord first thing in the morning. So our inspiration for the whole day is based upon seeing the Lord and hearing the Lord. So that's a daily practice we do. So the activities of bhakti itself lead us into this, connection with the Lord. All the activities are there to connect us and keep us connected with the Lord.
Regarding the hearing, one lecture, Maharaj, you were telling that we should hear according to the particular level which we are at. So different devotees will be able to relish different types of scriptural knowledge or Krishna conscious knowledge. So for the devotees who are they want to go very quickly from Anartha Nivritti to Nishtha, so what should they be hearing about?
Well, of course, our primary hearing is hearing the holy name. And then we have to understand the difference between pure bhakti and mixed bhakti. So we have to have some idea of the proper process to follow and how to do that. And then the next is the goal itself. If we don't understand what the goal is, then the process itself will be faulty. So if we understand what prema is, and what love is, and what unconditional love is, and then we can mold our whole process to attain that state. What if we don't know what it is, then the process itself becomes a little bit, not so precise.
So hearing about you said that the purpose, the goal which is Krishna Prem. So knowing about the prema and putting that as emphasis, and if we don't know it, what is unconditional love, we won't aspire for it. And similarly, mixed bhakti and the pure bhakti process we should know. And what else? One more thing. Hearing, it's that's one. Holy name. So, Maharaj, how much time do you think that it would be taking for a devotee who is trying to be sincere and serious, that he will go beyond and come to the Nishtha stage, from where the taste and ruchi is little more, at least one aspires?
Well, it will depend on his background also, and his faith. If he has a weak faith, then it takes longer. If he has stronger faith to begin with, then it becomes easier. And then if he has good association, that's also a factor. So if he has good faith, that means also he'll be more inspired too. He'll have more impetus to advance. If he has weaker faith, then less impetus, so therefore it takes a longer time. So he may have strong faith, but then he may also have obstacles due to past karmas, etc., which may create disturbances, etc. So we have various factors which may be involved in how fast he's going to progress because of the, previous lifetime, and then the degree of faith, etc., and then the association.
So during this whole while, the person will have to continue hearing the similar subject matter. So that, say, if it takes some 10, 15, 20 years for that person, so what is his, should we just hear, if we have to hear about mixed devotion service and pure devotion service, that let's say it gets completed in, say, maximum of 6 months to 1 year, then what should we do after that?
Well, we hope that by that time he's got to Nishtha. In about 20 years. That means he'll be struggling for 20 years just to practice regularly. I mean, that's a little bit pessimistic, I think. We would think after 1 year he'd be able to, maintain some steadiness in his devotional service.
What is the steadiness, Maharaj, which is called as Nishtha? What is that steadiness? Like Prabhupada has defined, you have to chant 16 rounds, you have to attend Mangal Aarti, you have to attend certain things.
Yeah.
No, but then, what exactly that steadiness is? Is it that it's specifically these things, or internally, what is it?
Well, that's one measure. At least, let's say the vows, it may be 16 rounds, etc., whatever vows are there, that he has no difficulty in regularly doing them. That's all. When you have difficulty, that means it's not so steady. Which means if it has difficulty, then sometimes you won't do them.
And also, now when we say 16 rounds, Prabhupada said 16 rounds attentively. So now if we just add this word attentively, this is like a huge variable.
Yeah.
What does it mean? What does attentiveness mean?
Yeah.
Many devotees may just complete their rounds for the sake of completing, but they are doing it while in train, while in auto, bus, while talking to so many others, etc., etc. So they do count the numbers, but then there is no attentiveness in the chanting. So if it is only the external part of merely completing the 16 rounds, that is Nishtha, or there is something?
Well, it's just one level. At least that's better than not doing it, isn't it? But then the better you can, higher quality again is better. So it's just all a matter of degrees, I suppose. And different levels of Nishtha.
So we say inattentive chanting is offensive. Inattentive chanting is the mother of all offenses.
Yeah, of course, obviously nobody can be completely attentive all the time. In sadhana and prema, yes, but in sadhana, no. So that again is, we can say, a relative term. But it becomes offensive when we make no attempt at all. So it becomes very casual, in other words. So instead of concentrating on the process, we don't concentrate at all. And that becomes a continual thing. Then it becomes offensive.
So we can say that those who are trying their best to, let's say, chant their rounds or to perform any process of devotion service, if they are trying their best, they are not becoming casual on it, they can be called a Nishtha, whereas others...
Well, they're attentive, yeah. And if they can do that steadily, and we can say that's Nishtha.
Hare Krishna. So,
in other words, the anarthas do not create a disturbance to their regular sadhana.
Guruji, you had a question?
Maharaj, in the explanations you are talking about biological evolution of the soul. What do we mean by that?
Oh, that's just that over experiences over different lifetimes, we should, through those experiences, learn something and advance. So, of course, in the Varnashram system, it's carefully regulated, so you go from Tamagun to Rajagun to Sattvagun over many lifetimes.
We can take it as a process of bhakti, where the biological evolution happens.
No, well, finally, that's the best. But first of all, it's only to get through the gunas, to get to Sattvagun, and then you can go higher.
And when we are grouping the matter, the subtle matters are false ego, mind, intelligence, the senses, and then comes the sense objects also you are grouped with this subtle matter.
Yeah.
And how do we understand that?
Yeah.
Matter, objects are gross.
No, these objects are subtle. Yeah? With the eye, we see forms, and we taste tastes of things, and we smell things. Actually, it's very subtle. It's not gross after all. Even the sense is not our gross sense. The senses go with us after we die, so it's not this sense. Even those we can't even see our senses. We can't see the mind, we cannot see the senses. The senses go with you after you die into the subtle body. They go into your next body again, and then they cooperate with your gross eye.
So the taste in a food is considered to be a subtle sense object.
Huh?
The taste in a food is considered as the subtler part of the sense object.
It's a sense object.
Sense object, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you have mentioned that the 96%.
Hare Krishna, let us thank His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj by 3 times loudly chanting Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. His Holiness Bhanu Swami Maharaj ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki. So today being Ekadashi and also Maharaj